Project comes with dozens of options, so you can tell it how you want it to behave. Many of the default settings work for most people, but there are a few that you might want to change right away. To set options, go to the File tab, and then click Options. And the Project Options dialog box opens. We're going to start in the General category, and that's the one that comes up. So the first thing to look at is username and initials. That's usually set up when you install Project, but if you don't have the right username and initials, you can type them in there. That way, they'll be with all of your project files. The other thing you can change is the date format. You can actually change this one as you're working, depending on what you need. If you want to see more of the date, click the down arrow and you can choose something that actually has the time in it, or even the day of the week. Or if you want to be really terse, you can just show the month and the date, or even just the day. So you can come back into the project option dialog box as often as you need to change that date format back and forth. The next category to look at is Save. So initially, Project saves to the most current project format. But if you work with a team that uses an older version of Project, you can always choose a different version, and then the program will save all of your files in that format so you can share them really easily with your team. The other one is the default file location. This is where Project actually saves files and looks for files. So when you open the Open or Save dialog boxes, it'll go to that folder initially. So select the folder where you want to keep your project files. If you're a big fan of keyboard shortcuts, you probably know that Control+O will actually open the Open dialog box directly, so you can just open the file that you want. Well, in Project, out of the box, Control-O goes to the Open page of the Backstage view, so there are a few extra clicks to get to an open file. But you can change that. The secret is this checkbox. Don't show the Backstage when opening or saving files. If you turn that checkbox on, then when you press Control+O, the Open dialog box opens right away, and you can select the folder and file you want. Same thing is if you press Control+S on a new file, it opens the Save As dialog box. Now, another thing that Project 2013 does is it tries to nudge you toward cloud storage. So when you go to open or save a file, it automatically selects SkyDrive, which is cloud storage, and that might not be what you want. So if you want to save your files on your computer, turn on the Save to Computer by Default checkbox. And that way, the Open and Save will automatically go to Computer. The other thing you might want to consider is autosave. If you've lost data in the past and you want Project to save your file for you without you having to tell it to save, turn on the autosave every checkbox and then put in the number of minutes. Well, that's kind of a trade-off between saving your data and being interrupted. So typically you want to do something like 60 minutes. That way every hour Project will save your file for you. And you can actually tell it if you want to save just the active project or all open projects. The prompt before saving checkbox is turned on, and that's what you want, because if you're working on what-if scenarios, you might not want to save. So by prompting, Project will ask if you want to save, and you can say yes or no. The last section to look at is the Trust Center. When you go to the Trust Center, click Trust Center Settings, and then go to Legacy Formats. Well, initially, the Do Not Open Save file is the one that's selected, and that can be problematic because that means if someone sends you a file that they created in Project 2003, you're not going to be able to open it. The other end of the spectrum, Allow Loading Files will let you open those files or save those files in those formats, but there's a bit of a security risk. So really the best one is to prompt. And that way, if you try to open or save to an older format or a different format, Project will ask you if that's what you want to do, and you can say yes or no. Then there's privacy options. This last checkbox, remove personal information from file properties on save. Well, what that does, if you turn that on and then go to save a file, it'll remove the author, the manager, the company, and the person who last saved the file from the file properties. So, for example, if you're saving a file and planning on sending it to someone just as an example, you really don't want all that information in there. Just turn on that checkbox. Well, with all the settings in place, you can just click OK to close all the dialog boxes, and you're all set. Setting project options to match how you work can make your project sessions faster and more effective. You can change settings at any time depending on what you're trying to do. You'll discover many other options throughout the rest of this course.